All right, morning, Debbie. Morning, everyone. Have you ever wondered what the significance of the old covenant and the new covenant is together?
Oh, you're asking.
A deeper question would be, why is the old covenant important even though we have a new covenant?
Gotta have a history.
See, as you dig in scriptures, the more and more I realize is that if you don't understand the old, you won't understand the present or the new.
Right, you gotta have a history of it.
And there's so much symbolism in the Old Testament that helps us understand the New Testament. And we've been doing that in certain ways throughout the talking about Jesus' baptism. We jumped to a couple Old Testament scriptures, and we were jumping around to say, hey, this is more significant than just Jesus getting dunked in the dunk tank for baptism and he was in the Jordan River getting dunked. So we're going to look at, I'm going to read a bunch of the beginning scriptures because I don't really want to get into the symbolism of each piece of furniture or all that. But we're going to get to a point where it starts talking about the significance of the Holy Spirit and Jesus and the new covenant. We're in Hebrews 9. So I'm going to read probably a lot of the first 7 or 8 verses before I even break down and go on a rant. Because a lot of it is the symbolism, and if we'd have to take each piece and tear it apart. And I don't want to get to that. I want to stay to the Jesus part of the. And I got amplified, so it'll have a few words. Doesn't look like it's too bad in what I'm going to read a lot of. So Hebrews 9, starting at verse 1. Now even the first covenant had regulations for divine worship and for earthly sanctuary. 2. A tabernacle, a sacred tent, was put up. The outer one, or the first section, in which were the lampstand and the table with its loaves of the sacred showbread. This is called the holy place. Verse 3. Behind the second veil, there was another tabernacle, the inner one, or the second section, known as the Holy of Holies. Verse 4. Having the golden altar of incense and the ark of the covenant covered entirely with gold. This contained a golden jar which held the manna and the rod of Aaron that sprouted, and the 2 stone tablets of the covenant inscribed with the 10 commandments. Verse 5. And above the ark were the golden cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. But we cannot now go into detail about these things. And I agree with that. Because if you study these out, if you do a deep study on each one of the pieces of furniture and how the tabernacle was structured, it'll blow your mind. You will understand Jesus and the new covenant at a whole new deeper level. And that's why I didn't want to get too deep in it, but it needed to set it up because that's what he's going to be talking about. Verse 6. Now when these things have been prepared in this way, the priests continually entered the altar, or the first section of the tabernacle. That is the holy place, performing their ritual acts of the divine worship. But into the second, the inner tabernacle, the holies of holies, only the high priest enters, and then only once a year, and never without bringing a sacrifice of blood, which he offers as a substitutionary atonement for himself and for the sins of the people committed in ignorance. So remember, the high priest, we know that's Jesus. We've said that. But we know Jesus died on a cross not just once a year, every year. He died on the cross once and brought the blood. So he's starting to set some things up. And I think in we're going to read verse 8. I think we'll start talking a little bit about it to see where we go. Verse 8. By this the Holy Spirit signifies. I think this has a lot of amplified, so get ready. Signifies the way of the holy place, the true holy of holies in the presence of God. Has not yet been disclosed as long as the first or the outer tabernacle is still standing. That is, as long as the Levitical system of worship remains a recognized institute. You're starting to see the difference. He's starting to set it up. I'm going to talk about what the old covenant and the new covenant, how they relate. how they should draw you in maybe little difference, but how they're going to be very significant to each other, and Jesus is going to fulfill these things. He's going to start breaking it down.